They thought I was replaceable. They were wrong. My name is Evelyn Harper. I'm 38, a project manager in Seattle. I'm quiet, reserved, always the one to listen, not confront. I value loyalty, hard work, and trust. When people betray me, I don't argue. I stay silent. I remember everything. And I plan. For 10 years, I pour my soul into Pinnacle Solutions. I started as a junior coordinator, fresh out of college, in a Seattle office that smelled of burnt coffee and ambition. Pinnacle was a startup then, teetering on big dreams and bigger debts. Darren, my boss, was charismatic, a leader who made the impossible feel close. He'd stride through, tossing ideas like confetti, and I'd catch them, turning chaos into structure. I stayed late, double-checked contracts, memorized every client's name and their kids' birthdays. I didn't seek praise. I believed in the work, the team, the idea we were building something lasting. Those early days buzzed with life. We'd laugh over midnight pizza, brainstorming to land our first big client. I remember the Henderson account win. Darren raised a plastic cup of cheap wine, toasting, to Evelyn, our glue. Everyone cheered. I smiled, cheeks warm, thinking this is my place, my home. I wasn't loud like Darren or flashy like sales. I was the steady hand. Deadlines met, budgets balanced, crises averted. My desk held organized chaos. Color-coded spreadsheets, sticky notes with client quirks, a photo of my parents at their 30th anniversary. I'd glance at it, feeling their pride in my promotions, my life at Pinnacle. I worked weekends without complaint, missed family dinners, rescheduled vacations. One Christmas Eve, I fixed a pitch in the office, saving $1 million deal. Darren called me his rock, and I nodded, believing it mattered. I wasn't chasing glory. I was building a legacy. Every project I managed, every client I nurtured, every 2 a.m. email, it was for Pinnacle, for a shared dream. I trusted Darren, the team, my quiet dedication weaving me into something bigger. But trust is fragile. Cracks form unnoticed until they're canyons. I didn't see Darren's late-night strategy sessions turn to golf outings, his team huddles become closed-door meetings. A new name crept into his stories. Marcus, his golf buddy, whose laugh echoed from Darren's office. I told myself it was nothing. I was indispensable. They need me, I thought, finalizing a proposal that landed a multi-year tech giant contract. They see me. I was wrong. My inner voice was softer then, full of pride. You're building something real, Evelyn, it whispered as I filed reports at 2 a.m. This is your purpose. I didn't know my spreadsheets, my client wins, were laying a foundation for someone else to claim. Loyalty, like trust, could be a one-way street. But I remember every moment of those 10 years. Every sacrifice. Every smile. When betrayal came, I didn't forget a single one. The air in Pinnacle Solutions shifted, subtle as a breeze you barely notice until it chills your skin. Darren wasn't the same anymore. The man who once rallied us with fiery pep talks now slipped out early, golf bag slung over his shoulder, a new spring in his step. I'd see him leave, his laugh carrying through the glass walls of his office, joined by another voice, Marcus, his golf buddy. I didn't know Marcus then, just his name, dropped casually in Darren's stories about fairways and bunkers. Marcus says this, or Marcus thinks that, Darren would say, his eyes bright, oblivious to how I'd pause, mid-keystroke, filing away each mention. I kept working, same as always. The Henderson account needed nurturing, and I was drafting proposals for a new client, a biotech firm with deep pockets. My desk was still a fortress of sticky notes and spreadsheets, but the office felt quieter now, the camaraderie fading. Colleagues rushed past, their chatter clipped, their eyes avoiding mine. I caught fragments of conversations in the break room, whispers of new blood, fresh ideas, words that hung in the air like smoke. I told myself it was just talk. Companies evolve, I thought. My role was secure. I'd built too much here to be overlooked. One afternoon, I passed Darren's office, the door ajar. Marcus was there, slouched in a chair, tie loose, laughing like he already belonged. Darren was nodding, scribbling notes, saying, "Yeah, that's the vision we need." I slowed my steps, clutching a stack of client reports, my heart ticking a beat faster. Vision? What vision? I'd been the one turning Darren's half-baked ideas into million-dollar deals for a decade. I stood there a moment too long, and Marcus glanced up, his eyes locking on mine, sharp, assessing, then dismissive. I smiled, nodded, and walked on. They're just talking, I told myself. You're overthinking. But the unease grew. Darren stopped asking for my input on big projects. He'd wave off my updates with a distracted, "Looks good, Evelyn," his eyes already elsewhere. I'd catch him on calls, his voice low, mentioning restructuring and new leadership. At a team lunch, he spent the whole time talking about Marcus, his game-changer friend who gets the big picture. I cut my sandwich into precise halves, listening, my face calm. Colleagues glanced at me, then away, as if they sensed something I refused to see. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat with a glass of wine, staring at the city lights. The warmth of those early Pinnacle days felt distant, like a photograph fading at the edges. I replayed every word, every glance, every laugh from Marcus. Something's shifting, my inner voice whispered, no longer soft but edged with clarity. They're planning without you. I didn't confront Darren. I didn't demand answers. I just watched, my mind cataloging every detail. The way Marcus's name lingered in conversations. The way Darren's praise for me had dried up. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger is loud, messy, and I've never been either. Instead, I felt a quiet sharpening, like a blade being honed in the dark. They think you don't see, my inner voice murmured as I refilled my glass. But you do, and you'll remember. I didn't know what was coming, not fully, but I knew one thing. I wasn't invisible. Not yet. And I wouldn't be forgotten. The conference room smelled of stale bagels and too strong coffee. The kind of morning where you expect routine updates, not a knife to the back. I sat near the head of the table, my usual spot, with a notepad full of updates for the biotech account I'd been nurturing. Darren stood at the front, his tie slightly crooked, his grin too wide for a Monday. He clapped his hands, silencing the room, and said, "Big news, team. We're shaking things up." My pen paused. I didn't look up, but I felt the air tighten, like the moment before storm breaks. "Marcus is joining us as the new project director," Darren said, gesturing to the man beside him. Marcus, in a tailored suit, his golf course tan glowing under the fluorescent lights. He's got fresh perspectives, bold ideas. Exactly what Pinnacle needs to soar. The room clapped, a polite ripple, but my hand stayed still. Darren's eyes slid past me, as if I were furniture, and then he dropped the real blow. "Evelyn, you'll shift to a support role. Data management, process optimization. Marcus will take the lead on major accounts. 10 years of late nights, of saving deals, of building Pinnacle's name, and it was gone in a sentence. A support role. A demotion dressed up as a favor. I felt every pair of eyes in the room, some curious, some pitying, none meeting mine for long. Marcus stepped forward, all charm, talking about streamlining and vision, words I'd heard from Darren a decade ago when he called me his rock. Now I was just a stepping stone. I nodded, my face a mask of calm. "Understood," I said, my voice steady, betraying nothing. Inside, something fractured, not loud, not explosive, but a quiet snap, like a bone breaking cleanly. I saw my parents' photo on my desk in my mind, their pride in me now tainted. I saw every missed dinner, every sacrifice weekend, every client I'd won for Darren. And I saw Marcus, standing where I should have been, his smile oblivious to the weight of my decade. The meeting droned on, but I barely heard it. Colleagues shifted in their seats, stealing glances. Darren didn't look at me again. Marcus shook hands, his confidence filling the room like a fog. I wrote a single word on my notepad. Why? Not out of confusion, but to anchor myself. I didn't need to ask why. I knew. Golf games, shared drinks, a bond one couldn't touch. I was loyal, but Marcus was his friend. That night, I sat in my car outside the office, the engine off, the Seattle rain tapping the windshield. The betrayal sank deeper, cold and heavy, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the blurred lights, replaying Darren's words, Marcus's smirk, the room's silence. "They think you're done," my inner voice whispered, no longer soft but sharp as glass. They think you'll fade. I didn't respond to the betrayal. I didn't confront it. I remembered it. Every word, every glance, every second of that moment when my decade was erased. I started the car, the wipers clearing the rain. "You're not done, Evelyn," my inner voice said, calm but unyielding. "You're just beginning." I drove home, my mind already turning, not with rage, but with something colder, clearer. They made their move. Now I'd make mine. The office felt like a foreign country now, its borders redrawn overnight. My new desk, tucked in a corner by the copy machine, was a far cry from the one I'd built my life around. No more sticky notes with client quirks, no more photo of my parents' smiling faces, just a barren surface and a computer loaded with mindless data entry tasks. I showed up each morning, my face composed, my voice polite, as if Darren's announcement hadn't gutted me. "Good morning," I'd say to colleagues, who'd mumble back, their eyes sliding away like I was a ghost they didn't want to acknowledge. Marcus was everywhere, his voice booming through meetings, his ideas, rehashed versions of my old proposals, met with nods and praise. Darren clapped him on the back, their laughter a private club I'd never join. I typed reports, my fingers mechanical, while their voices carried through the glass walls. Colleagues who once lingered at my desk for advice now hurried past, their smiles tight, their conversations clipped. I wasn't Evelyn, the glue, anymore. I was Evelyn, the demoted, the discarded. The weight of their pity pressed against my chest, but I didn't flinch. I didn't let it show. Nights were harder. In my apartment, the Seattle skyline glittered through my window, indifferent to the ache inside me. I'd sit on my couch, a single lamp casting shadows, and replay the meeting, Darren's casual dismissal, Marcus's smug confidence, the room's silence. 10 years of loyalty, reduced to a footnote. I thought my parents, how I'd told them last Christmas I was set for life at Pinnacle. The shame burned, not because I'd failed, but because I believed in something that didn't believe in me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sipped my tea, cold now, and let the hurt settle, heavy but contained. I kept working, filing reports no one read, organizing data no one needed. Marcus would pass by, tossing a "nice work, Evelyn," that dripped with condescension. I'd nod, my smile a perfect mask, while my mind cataloged every slight, every smirk. "They think you're broken," my inner voice whispered, its tone no longer hopeful but steady, like a pulse. "They think you'll stay small." I didn't argue with the loneliness, didn't fight the isolation. I leaned into it, let sharpen me. One evening, I found an old notebook in my desk drawer, filled with notes from Pinnacle's early days. My handwriting, my strategies, my victories. I traced the pages, remembering the nights I'd stayed late, the deals I'd saved. This was mine, I thought. Not Marcus's, not Darren's. Something shifted then, not rage, but clarity. Silence wasn't surrender. It was my weapon, my shield. I closed the notebook, my fingers steady, and looked out at the city. "You're not defeated, Evelyn," my inner voice said, calm but unyielding. "You're invisible now. That's your power." I didn't need to shout or storm out. I needed to watch, to wait, to let their confidence blind them. Every ignored email, every patronizing glance, every moment they underestimated me. I stored it all. Not to mourn, but to build. They thought I was fading. They didn't know I was forging something new in the quiet, something they'd never see coming. The corner by the copy machine became my sanctuary, a place where no one looked twice. My new role, data management, a polite term for busy work, gave me access to Pinnacle's digital underbelly, client records, project logs, financial trails. I'd spent a decade building those systems, my fingerprints on every process, every database. Now, in the quiet of my demotion, I turned that knowledge into a map, not for salvation, but for retribution. I didn't rush. I didn't seethe. I worked, my face a mask of compliance, while my mind drew lines between points no one else saw. I started small and methodical. Late at night, when the office was empty, I sifted through old emails, cross-referencing Darren's promises to clients against what he'd actually delivered. There were gaps, missed deadlines, budget overruns, corners cut to pad his bonuses. I saved screenshots, archived memos, build a shadow record of his carelessness. Marcus was easier. His bold ideas were sloppy, riddled with errors I'd have caught in a heartbeat. A misquoted contract here, a misstep with a key client there. I noted each one, my finger steady on the keyboard, my desk lamp casting a cold glow. I knew the clients better than anyone. The biotech firm, for instance, valued precision. I'd won their trust with flawless reports. Marcus sent them a proposal last week, riddled with typos, numbers fudged to look impressive. I printed it, marked the errors in red, and tucked it away. Not yet, I told myself. Timing was everything. I didn't want chaos. I wanted collapse, slow and inevitable. I began drafting anonymous emails, not to send, but to perfect, each word chosen to expose without implicating. At home, my apartment became a war room. A corkboard leaned against my bedroom wall, hidden behind a curtain, pinned with names, dates, and connections. Henderson CEO, who'd once called me irreplaceable. The board member who'd questioned Darren's spending last year. The junior analyst who'd seen Marcus fumble a presentation. I wasn't building a bomb. I was laying a foundation, brick by careful brick. They think you're invisible, my inner voice said, no longer a whisper but a low, steady hum. Let them. Marcus stopped by my desk one day, tossing a flash drive. Clean up these files, Evelyn, he said, his tone dripping with casual authority. I nodded, my smile practiced, while I noticed the drive's label, Q3 projections. Careless. I copied its contents before returning it, finding budgets inflated to hide Marcus's oversights. Darren had signed off on them. Perfect, I thought, saving the evidence. They were building their own trap, and I was merely arranging the pieces. I didn't feel anger anymore. It had hardened into something sharper, colder. Each night, I reviewed my notes, my plan taking shape like a blueprint for a house only I could see. They forgot who built this place, my inner voice said, calm and certain. You'll remind them. I didn't need to shout or storm their offices. I needed only what I'd always had, patience, precision, and the truth they'd buried. Every file I saved, every mistake I cataloged, was a step toward their undoing. I wasn't fighting. I was ending it. The office hummed with its usual rhythm, but I felt the shift, like the first tremor before an earthquake. My plan was ready, the pieces aligned. Every memo, every error, every careless signature I'd cataloged over weeks. I didn't need fireworks or confrontation. My revenge was a whisper, precise and invisible, delivered through the systems I'd built. The biotech account, my pride for years, was the perfect starting point. Marcus had sent them a revised contract, bloated with errors I'd flagged in my hidden notes. I knew their CEO, Laura Chun, valued accuracy above all. She'd trusted me once. She would again. I drafted an anonymous email from a burner account, simple and professional, a polite nudge about discrepancies in the contract, with a single page attached. Marcus's proposal, my red marks highlighting his miscalculations. No accusations, just facts, enough to raise questions. I sent it to Laura's assistant, knowing it would reach her desk by morning. At the office, I continued my data entry charade, my face blank as I typed meaningless reports. Marcus strutted past, oblivious, joking with Darren about their next golf game. I nodded at their small talk, my smile a perfect mask. You don't see me, I thought. Not yet. By noon, the fallout began. Laura called Darren, her voice sharp enough to carry through his office door. These numbers don't add up, she said, demanding a meeting. Darren's face flushed as he scrambled for answers, pulling Marcus into a closed-door huddle. I overheard Marcus stammer. It's a clerical error, no big deal. But Laura wasn't appeased. She wanted revisions by end of day. I kept my head down, sorting files while my inner voice hummed, the first crack. Just the beginning. I didn't stop there. A second email went to a board member, one I knew had doubts about Darren's spending. Attached was a screenshot of an inflated Q3 budget, Marcus's name on it, Darren's approval stamp below. No commentary, just the document, sent from another untraceable account. The board member replied to Darren within hours, requesting a review. I watched from my corner as Darren's confidence wavered, his tie loosened, his voice tense on calls. Marcus, less cocky now, fumbled through explanations in a team meeting, his bold vision crumbling under scrutiny. No one suspected me. Why would they? I was Evelyn, the demoted, the quiet one by the copy machine. I answered emails, filed reports, and offered polite smiles when Marcus muttered about technical glitches. They're blind, my inner voice said, cold and steady. You're the architect of this. I didn't gloat or linger. I moved with precision, planting seeds of doubt without leaving fingerprints. Each misstep I exposed weakened their foundation, a structure I'd built and knew how to dismantle. That night, I sat in my apartment, the corkboard behind my curtain updated with new pins. Laura's email, the board's request. The city lights blinked outside, indifferent to the storm I'd started. They thought you'd fade, my inner voice whispered, sharp with quiet triumph. But you're rewriting their story. I sipped my tea, calm, as the crackside car began to spread. Darren and Marcus were scrambling, unaware of the hand guiding their fall. I wasn't done. This was just the first move. The office was a house of cards, and my whispers had become a gale. It started with the biotech account. Laura Chun, after receiving my anonymous nudge, escalated her concerns to the board, citing repeated oversights in Marcus's work. By midweek, 2 other clients, ones I'd nurtured for years, followed suit, sending formal complaints about mismanaged budgets and sloppy deliverables. I'd sent them carefully curated evidence, each email a scalpel, cutting just deep enough to draw blood without revealing my hand. At my corner desk, I typed meaningless reports, my face a study in neutrality, while Darren's office became a storm of urgent calls and closed doors. Marcus unraveled first. His charm couldn't mask the numbers, overruns, errors, promises he couldn't keep. In a board meeting I wasn't invited to, but whose echoes reached me through a nervous junior analyst, the directors grilled him. How did you miss this? They demanded, holding up my highlighted budgets, my flag contracts. Marcus stammered, blaming system issues, but the board wasn't buying it. By Friday, his office was cleared out, his tailored suits replaced by a cardboard box carried to the elevator. He didn't look at me as he left. I didn't expect him to. You never saw me, my inner voice noted, cold and steady. Darren held on longer, but the cracks were spreading. The board, armed with my anonymous leaks, dug into his approvals. Every signature on Marcus's failures led back to him. The Henderson account, my first big one a decade ago, threatened to pull out, citing leadership concerns. Darren's charisma couldn't save him now. His tie hung loose, his eyes bloodshot from late-night damage control. I passed him in the hall, carrying a stack of files no one would read. Evelyn, you holding up? He asked, his voice strained, as if I were the one crumbling. I nodded, my smile polite. You don't see the storm you're in, I thought. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The board meeting that sealed their fate was scheduled for Monday. I'd sent one final email the night before, to a board member I knew despised waste. Attached were Darren's expense reports, golf trips, client dinners, all approved while projects bled money. No commentary, just the numbers. By Monday afternoon, the news trickled through the office. Darren was stepping back to explore new opportunities. The phrase was corporate for defeat. I sorted files at my desk, the hum of the copy machine my only company, as colleagues whispered about the shakeup. No one looked at me. No one suspected the quiet woman in the corner, the one they'd pitted, the one they'd forgotten. You built this, Evelyn, my inner voice said, calm as a frozen lake. And now you've undone it. I didn't cheer or smile. I felt no rage, no triumph. Only the quiet weight of justice settling into place. Their empire, built on my work, was collapsing, and I was the shadow that pushed it over. I wasn't done yet, but for now, I watched, silent, as the pieces fell. I walked out of Pinnacle Solutions for the last time on a Tuesday, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. My desk was cleared, the corner by the copy machine as bare as the day I'd been banished there. I carried a single box, my parents' anniversary photo, a few notebooks, the weight of 10 years. No one stopped me. No one noticed. The office was a shell now, its energy drained by client defections and Darren's disgrace. Marcus was long gone, and Darren's nameplate had been pried off his door. I didn't look back as I stepped into the Seattle rain, my umbrella unopened, letting the drops soak my coat. I'd already laid the groundwork for my next move. Weeks ago, I'd reached out to Laura Chun, the biotech CEO, and others I'd won over in my Pinnacle days. No pitches, just quiet conversations, reminders of the trust we built. They didn't ask about Pinnacle's collapse. They didn't need to. They followed me. By the time I filed the paperwork for Harper Consulting, 3 major clients had signed on. Their contracts a testament to the work I'd done, not the title I'd lost. My apartment, once a war room of pinned notes and plans, became an office, its windows framing a city that felt mine again. I didn't gloat over Pinnacle's fall. I didn't need to. The news trickled in. Lawsuits from former clients, a board in chaos, the company teetering on bankruptcy. Darren surfaced once, on a LinkedIn post, announcing a new venture that reeked of desperation. Marcus faded into obscurity, his golf course charm useless without my work to prop him up. I read the updates on my laptop, sipping tea, my corkboard now tucked away in a closet. The storm I'd started had done its work, precise and final, like a blade slipped between ribs. Sitting at my new desk, I thought of those early Pinnacle days. Pizza at midnight, Darren's toasts, my naive belief in loyalty. The betrayal had broken something in me, but it also built something new. I wasn't the Evelyn who'd trusted blindly, who'd stayed late for a dream that wasn't mine. I was sharper now, steadier, my silence a strength I'd honed in the shadows. You didn't win, Evelyn, my inner voice said, calm and clear. You ended it. And in that ending, I'd reclaimed what was mine. Not just clients, but my worth, my purpose. I looked at my parents' photo, now framed on my desk, their smiles a reminder of who I'd been fighting for. The phone rang, a new client, referred by Laura. I answered, my voice steady, professional, the same voice that had never wavered, even when the world turned against me. Outside, the Seattle skyline glowed, no longer indifferent, but alive with possibility. I didn't need applause or vengeance's roar. My victory was quiet, carved in patience and precision, a legacy no one could take away.